Hello, students. I hope you all are doing good. Today, we are going to discuss NCERT section 13.4, 13.4.1, 13.4.2, and example 13.2 of chapter nuclei. This is the disclaimer. So, today we are going to discuss nuclei. First, we will see what you will be able to do after this lecture, and we are going to learn in this lecture. After this lecture, you will be able to understand Einstein's mass energy equivalence E equal to delta mc square and how to calculate energy equivalent of mass, including the concept of mass defect and nuclear binding energy. You will be able to understand the binding energy curve and its implication for nuclear stability, fusion and fission processes, along with the significance of binding energy per nucleon. The topics that we are going to cover in this lecture are Section 13.4 of NCERT, mass energy and nuclear binding energy. We will discuss subsection 13.4.1, mass energy. Then we will solve example 13.2. At the end, we will discuss section 13.4.2, nuclear binding energy. Now let's understand Einstein's mass energy relationship. Let's start with Einstein's famous equation E equal to mc square. And this is NCERT equation 13.6. Here E stands for energy, m is mass, and c is speed of light in meters per second. This equation tells us that mass can be converted into energy, and even a small amount of mass can produce a huge amount of energy because c squared is a very large number. Notice how the equation also works for changes in mass. If the mass of a system changes by an amount delta m, the energy changes by delta E equal to delta m c squared. This means that whatever mass is lost or gained in the process, there is a corresponding change in energy. Now let's look at the energy equivalence of one atomic mass unit, or 1U. One atomic mass unit is defined as 1.660539 times 10 to the power minus 27 kg. This is a very small mass, but as we will see, it still corresponds to significant amount of energy when converted using Einstein's equation. Here, c is the speed of light in a vacuum, which is 2.99792458 times 10 to the power 8 meter per second, or approximately we will take 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. Let's substitute the values into our equation. So E equal to delta m is here is 1U times c square. So that means E equals 1.660539 times 10 to the power minus 27 kg multiplied by 2.9979 multiplied by 10 to the power 8 meter per second squared. This calculation will give us the energy in joules, that is equivalent to one atomic mass unit. After doing the math, we find that E is approximately 1.4924 times 10 to the power minus 10 joules. This shows us that even a tiny mass like one atomic mass unit corresponds to significant amount of energy. This principle is the basis for enormous energy released in nuclear reactions, such as those in the sun or in nuclear power plants. Now let's learn how to convert energy values in mega electron volt. Let's start by looking at the basic conversion between joules and electron volts. 1 electron volt or 1 EV is equal to 1.602 times 10 to the power minus 19 joules. Remember, a joule is the standard SI unit for energy, while the electron volt is often used in atomic and nuclear physics. Now let's apply this conversion to a specific example. Suppose we have an energy value of 1.4924 times 10 to the power minus 10 joules. To convert this to electron volts, we divide by the conversion factor 1.602 times 10 to the power minus 19 joules per electron volt. Also keep in mind that 1 mega electron volt is equal to 10 to the power 6 electron volt. After performing the division, we find that the energy is approximately 9.3148 times 10 to the power 8 electron volts. This is a large number, so it's much more convenient to express it in mega electron volts. So we will do next. When we convert this value to mega electron volt by dividing by 1 million, we get about 931.5 mega electron volt. Finally, let's highlight an important conversion factor in nuclear physics. One atomic mass unit times the speed of light squared, that is 1 uc squared, is equal to 931.5 mega electron volt. This relationship is crucial for dealing with mass energy equivalence, such as in E equal to mc squared, and helps us quickly convert between mass and energy in nuclear reactions. Now let's understand the mass energy relationship. Here you can see a famous image representing Einstein's mass energy equivalence. This concept comes from his theory of special relativity. Einstein showed us that mass is actually another form of energy. This means we can't think of mass and energy as completely separate things. Instead, mass can be converted into energy and vice versa. Before Einstein's theory, scientists believed that mass and energy were each conserved separately in any reaction. In other words, they thought you couldn't lose or gain mass or energy independently. However, Einstein demonstrated that mass itself is a form of energy. This means that in certain reactions, like those in nuclear physics, mass can actually be transformed into energy. This is the basis for the famous equation E equal to mc square. So we know now that mass energy can be converted into other forms of energy such as kinetic energy, and the process can also work in reverse. Here Einstein mass energy equivalence relationship is introduced. E equal to mc square. In this formula, E stands for energy, m is mass, and c is the speed of light, which is a constant. This equation tells us that even a small amount of mass can be converted into a huge amount of energy because c squared is a very large number. Let's break down the variables in the equation. The mass m is any amount of matter, and c, the speed of light, is approximately 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. This means that if you multiplied any mass by the square of this enormous speed, you get its energy equivalent. This relationship isn't just theoretical, it's been confirmed by experiments, especially in nuclear physics. When we study nuclear reactions involving protons, neutrons, electrons, and other particles, we see that change in mass matches the energy released or absorbed, just as Einstein's predicted. This is why nuclear power plants and atomic bombs can release so much energy from small amount of matter. Finally, let's connect this to the law of conservation of energy. In any reaction, the total energy before and after must be the same, but we now know to include the energy associated with the mass as well. This means that if mass seems to disappear in a reaction, it's actually been converted into energy, keeping the total mass energy conserved. Let's examine example 13.2 of NCERT. The question asks us to calculating the energy equivalent of 1 gram of a substance. Let's identify what's given in the problem. We are told we have a mass of 1 gram of a substance. Now let's convert the mass into SI units. Remember, 1 gram is equal to 1 times 10 to the power 3 kilograms. Next, let's use the formula equal to mc square, where E is energy in joules, m is mass in kilograms, c is speed of light in meters per second. Here c is 3 times 10 to the power 8 meter per second. So we substitute the value E equal to 10 to the power minus 3 multiplied by 3 into 10 to the power 8 square. Let's simplify the calculation. E equal to 3 into 10 to the power 8 squared is 9 into 10 to the power 16. So multiplying this by 10 to the power minus 3 give us E equal to 10 to the power minus 3 times 9 multiplied by 10 to the power 16. Now let's finish the calculation. Multiplying 10 to the power minus 3 by 9 into 10 to the power 16 give us 9 into 10 to the power 13 joules. That's an enormous amount of energy from 1 gram of matter. To sum up, converting just 1 gram of matter entirely into energy would release a huge amount of energy, that is 10 to the power 9 into 10 to the power 13 joules. This demonstrates why nuclear reactions, which convert even small amount of mass into energy, can be so powerful. Now let's understand the concept of mass defect in nuclei. First, let's define the mass defect. It was found that mass of a stable nucleus, which we can call M, is always less than the sum of the masses of its separate protons and neutrons. This means that when nucleons come together to form a nucleus, some mass seems to disappear. The mass defect, which we can write as delta M, is simply the difference between the sum of the masses of all the nucleons, meaning all the protons and neutrons, and the actual mass of the nucleus itself. Let's look at the mathematical formulation for a nucleus written as AXZ, where A is mass number, Z is the atomic number, and the mass of the nucleus is MnUc. We can set an equation to calculate the mass defect. The formula for mass defect is delta M equal to Z times Mp plus A minus Z times Mn minus MnUc. Here Z is the number of protons, Mp is the mass of protons, A minus Z is the number of neutrons, and Mn is the mass of neutron, and MnUc is actual mass of the nucleus. So Zmp plus A minus Z multiplied by Mn, that collectively, the collective term in square bracket represents the mass of nucleons present in nucleus. The missing mass delta M is not actually lost. It is converted into energy that holds the nucleus together. This is called the binding energy, and it's a direct application of Einstein's equation equal to mc square. The greater the mass defect, the more tightly bound the nucleus is. Now let's understand the concept of nuclear binding energy. Let's look at what binding energy means. Binding energy, often written as EB, is the energy needed to break a nucleus apart into its individual protons and neutrons. In other words, it's the energy that holds the nucleus together. Notice in the diagram how the nucleus is made up of protons and neutrons, and the binding energy is what keeps them from flying apart. Remember, this energy comes from the mass defect, which is the difference between the mass of the separated nucleons and the mass of the nucleus itself. Now let's see how we calculate binding energy mathematically. The formula is EB equal to delta M C square. This is NCERT question 13.8. Here delta M is mass defect and C is the speed of light. This equation shows us that even a small difference in mass can result in a large amount of energy. Finally, we can write the formula for calculating binding energy EB, which gives us EB equal to Zmp plus A minus Zmn minus MnUc, and this whole term enclosed in square brackets multiplied by C square, where Z is the number of protons and A minus Z is number of neutrons. Let's start by looking at binding energy in terms of atomic masses. It's often easier to use the mass of whole atom rather than just the nucleus. Let M atom is the mass of atom, and we can find the mass of nucleus MnUc by subtracting the mass of all electrons, which is Z times multiplied Z times me from the atomic mass. Now let's substitute this expression MnUc into the formula for binding energy Eb. Remember, Mh is the mass of a hydrogen atom which is made up of proton and an electron. So we can write Mp, the mass of proton, as Mh minus Me. Okay. Here is the expanded formula for binding energy using atomic masses. Eb equals to Z times in bracket Mh minus Me plus A minus Z times Mn minus in bracket M atom minus Z times Me bracket close, and this whole term enclosed in square brackets multiplied by C squared. Z is number of protons, A is total number of nucleons, Mn is the neutron mass, and C is the speed of light. A minus Z is the number of neutrons. After simplifying, we get a more convenient formula. Eb equals to Z times Mh plus A minus Z times Mn minus M atom, and this whole term enclosed in square bracket times C square. This version is easier to use because it only involves the atomic mass of hydrogen, the neutron mass, and the atomic mass of the element we are studying. So if you are given the values of Mh, Mp, and M atom, you can use this formula directly to find the nuclear binding energy. This approach is especially useful for solving numerical problems in exams. Now let's understand the concept of binding energy per nucleon. Binding energy per nucleon is a measure of how stable nucleus is. In other words, it tells us how strongly the protons and neutrons are held together inside the nucleus. The higher this value, the more stable the nucleus tends to be. Let's look closer at what binding energy per nucleon represents. It's the average amount of energy needed to remove just one nucleon, either a proton or a neutron, from the nucleus. So if you imagine pulling out one building block from a tightly packed structure, this energy tells us how hard that would be. Thus, we can write binding energy per nuclear as EBN equal to EB upon A. Mark it as NCERT question 13.9. Here EBN means the nucleus is, the value of EBN means the nucleus is more stable and its nucleons are more tightly bound. EB here is binding energy and A is the mass number. Okay, so binding energy per nucleon represents the stability of nucleus, and this is why iron 56, which has one of the highest binding energy per nucleon, is so stable. Now let's take example of oxygen 16 to calculate the binding energy per nucleon. So we see that total binding energy for oxygen 16 is 127.6 mega electron volt. Binding energy EB is the energy required to break a nucleus into its individual protons and neutrons. For oxygen, mass number A is 16. Therefore, number of nucleons are 16, A equal to 16. We calculate the binding energy per nucleon EBN by dividing the total binding energy by the number of nucleons. EBN equal to 127.6 mega electron volt divided by 16. This formula EBN equal to EB upon A helps us compare how tightly bound different nuclei are, regardless of their size. After dividing, we find that binding energy per nucleon for oxygen 16 is 7.975 mega electron per nucleon. This value shows us that on average, each nucleon in oxygen 16 is held together by about approximately 8 mega electron volt of energy. Now we will see the graph between binding energy per nucleon and how it changes with mass number. Our main goal is to understand the plot of binding energy per nucleon, which we write EBN versus mass number A. Binding energy per nucleon tells us how tightly the nucleons, protons, and neutrons are held together in a nucleus. The higher this value, the more stable the nucleus is. Let's see what the curve looks like and what it tells about the different elements. Notice the shape of the graph in figure 13.1. This curve shows that binding energy per nucleon changes as we move from light to heavier nuclei. Pay attention to the steep rise at the beginning, the broad maximum in the middle, and the gradual decline for heavier nuclei. First, focus on the light nuclei, where the mass number A is less than 30. Here, the binding energy per nucleon EBN is quite small. Okay, and the curve rises sharply. This means that as we add more nucleons to very light nuclei, each additional nucleon makes the nucleus much more stable. For example, hydrogen and helium have low binding energy per nucleon. But as we move to the element like carbon and oxygen, the value increases quickly. Next, let's look at the intermediate nuclei where A is between 30 and 170. In this region, the binding energy per nucleon is nearly constant and reaches its maximum value, about 8.75 megaelectron volt. This means these nuclei are the most stable. For instance, nickel and iron falls into this range and their nuclei are very tightly bound. Notice how the curve flattens out here, showing that adding more nucleons doesn't significantly change the stability. The peak of the curve is at mass number A equals to 56, which is iron 56. This nucleus has a binding energy per nucleon of about 8.75 megaelectron volt, making it one of the most stable nuclei in the nature. That's why iron is so common in the universe. It's the end product of many nuclear reactions in stars. Finally, let's consider the heavy nuclei where A is greater than 170. Here the binding energy per nucleon gradually decreases. For example, uranium-238 has a binding energy per nucleon of about 7.6 megaelectron volt, which is lower than that of iron. This decrease means heavy nuclei are less stable and more likely to undergo radioactive decay. Now let's understand what the binding energy curve tells us about the nuclear fission. The binding energy curve shows how tightly nucleons, protons, and neutrons are held together in a nucleus. Let's focus on nuclear fission. Fission is the process where a heavy nucleus splits into two smaller nuclei. This is the key process in nuclear reactors and atomic bombs. And it's all about how energy is released when nucleus breaks apart. Here we see that heavy nucleus like one with mass number around 240, think uranium-235 or plutonium-239, has a lower binding energy per nucleon, about 7.6 megaelectron volt. When it splits, it forms two lighter nuclei, each with mass around 120. The product nuclei, these lighter fragments, have a higher binding energy per nucleon, about 8.5 megaelectron volt. This means the nucleons in the new nuclei are held together more tightly. The difference in the binding energy between the original heavy nucleus and the lighter nuclei is released as energy. This is a direct application of the conversion of energy. What's lost in the nuclear binding energy is gained as kinetic energy of the fragments and as radiations. The energy released is roughly 240 times the difference in the binding energy per nucleon. So about 240 times 8.5 minus 7.6 megaelectron volt, which equals approximately 216 megaelectron volt. This large amount of energy per fission event is what makes nuclear fission such a powerful energy source. Now we will understand what the binding energy curve tells us about the nuclear fusion. The binding energy curve is a graph that shows how tightly the protons and the neutrons are held together in a different nuclei. Now let's focus on the processes of fission and fusion. Take a look at this diagram. It shows how energy is released in both nuclear fission and where the heavy nucleus splits, and nuclear fusion where a light nuclei combine. Notice the arrows indicating energy released in both cases. And you can see that for atoms like deuterium, helium-3 and tritium, the energy released in nuclear reaction is very high. That means their binding energy per nucleon is low. Okay. Also for fission, uranium-238, it is unstable, but energy released during nuclear reaction is less than the energy released in nuclear reactions of these deuterium, helium-3 and tritium atoms, because energy released in fusion process is much greater than the energy released in fission process. Let's talk about specifically about nuclear fusion. Fusion is when two very light nuclei come together to form a heavy nucleus. For example, two hydrogen nuclei can fuse to make a helium nucleus. Here what happens in more detail, two very light nuclei like deuterium, which is hydrogen 2, and each have a relatively low binding energy per nucleon. When they fuse, they form a heavier and more stable nucleus, that is helium-4. So helium-4 is stable, and you can see in the diagram, helium-3 is unstable. The fusion, during fusion process of two helium nuclei, energy released is low, but the fusion process of two helium-3 nuclei, energy released is more. Okay. The binding energy per nucleon, which we call EBN of the new heavier nucleus, is much higher than that of original lighter nuclei. EBN is measured in units like mega electron volts per nucleon. This increase in binding energy per nucleon is what makes fusion such an efficient source of energy. The difference in binding energy between the starting nuclei and product nucleus is released as energy. This is the same process that powers the sun and other stars. So the binding energy curve helps us understand why fusion releases so much energy. Now let's summarize what we have studied in this lecture. We started with Einstein mass energy equivalence. Einstein showed that mass is a form of energy and can be converted into other energy forms. 1 gram of matter, if completely converted to energy, releases an enormous amount of energy. Mass defect is the difference between the sum of individual nucleon masses and the actual nuclear mass. Nuclear binding energy is the energy equivalent of mass defect, representing energy needed to break a nucleus. Binding energy per nucleon indicates nuclear stability. Nuclear fission involves splitting heavy nuclei into lighter ones, releasing energy. Nuclear fusion combines lighter nuclei into heavy ones, also releasing energy, and the energy released in the nuclear fusion is much greater than the energy released in nuclear fission. Binding energy curve explains why both fusion and fission can release energy. Now we have some practice questions which can be solved using the concept we have studied in this lecture. Solving these problems will enhance your problem solving skills. First question is, calculate the energy equivalent of 2 gram of matter using Einstein's mass energy relation. If the mass defect of a nucleus is 0.02 U, what is its binding energy in mega electron volt? Use 1 U is equal to 931.5 mega electron volt. Find the binding energy per nucleon of carbon-12 if its total binding energy is given 92.16 mega electron volt. Convert 5 mega electron volt of energy into atomic mass units. If a nucleus has atomic mass 20 U and its constituents 10 protons and 10 neutrons have total mass 20.15 U, what is its mass defect in U, that is atomic mass units. So this is all about today's lecture. I hope you enjoyed the session and understood it well. Thank you for your attention.